Elliot and Greg, welcome to the Craft and Business Podcast. You guys have been together for quite some time. 20 years, I believe?
Yep.
20-something years, I guess. Yeah.
Chapel Cabinetry has been around 10 years.
Okay.
But I went into business about 20 years ago. And then the recession happened in 2008. And then I got scared. And Greg and I were working together up until that point. And I got nervous and decided to try to find a 9-to-5. So then I started building cabinets at the University of Alabama. They have a great cabinet shop. We did a lot of high-end work. And then I got bored with that. So I called Greg back. And then we got back together 10 years ago. And we started off with just he and I. We sold the jobs. We installed the jobs. We did everything.
Yeah.
Were you both established enough in the community to have access to jobs when you're ready to go off on your own, or did it take a while to kind of start building the clientele?
Well, we started off as the cheap guy, and now we're more up on the, we just baby stepped it and just tried to really take care of the customers, even if it's stuff that's outside of our job. We try to do it if we can.
Yeah.
Because sometimes nobody else will. And ultimately, you just want to leave a good taste with the customer. Because people they're quick to say something bad. They're slow to say something good. And if you don't give them anything good to say if you don't give them anything good to say, they won't. So that's just been our approach, is bend over backwards whenever possible.
Gotcha. So those first few years, what were some of those earlier challenges besides obviously cash flow, being the cheap guy?
You mean when the recession happened?
No, once you kind of started up the business again. What were those early challenges besides cash flow, being the cheap guy?
Well, I would say finding people that can work. You can't really just jump right into cabinet making. And not at a high level. And so you just kind of have to start sweeping. And then you start reading a tape measure. And then the next thing you know, you're building something. And it's hard to get people, get people to realize, especially I think with the younger kids, it's hard to get them to realize that they got to sweep for a while. So, but we are fortunate that we found some young guys. Like, we know the future of our business is actually connected to the younger guys, because they're the ones that are going to be doing the work. Like Greg and I, we're in our 50s. And so it's hard to be on the concrete all the time now. And so it really depends on how well we can teach them and how willing they are to receive it. So I think the future of our business, at least in a local, like we're trying to have a non-local business, but our local business, I think it depends on a lot of ways how well they do and how well we can find people that want to work and learn the trade. And I love the trade. Like, I love it so much, and I want to teach young people. That's something, if I can kind of get to the next level when I get near retirement, I would like to have programs where young guys coming out of high school can learn. And like Greg and I get in there and teach them. And whether it's with a company we're connected to, or somebody else's, I just think it's such a great trade. And in the light of AI, teaching people to do something with their hands, it's becoming special.
Yeah.
Oh, so true. I definitely want to go into what that kind of future goals and big dreams look like. But first, Greg, what was your experience of that first year or two?
Well, I started in the 90s doing custom stuff, commercial work. So I kind of learned how to read a tape and do radiuses, all that back in the 90s. And when I hooked up with Elliot, I guess it was about 2004, 2005. I did that first job. Me and my brother were installing cabinets, and that's when I hooked up with Elliot. He was selling cabinets, and I'd go install some, and he'd be out of town a lot, so I'd go do it for him when he would be out of town. So he gave me a lot of work when I first started installing. And I don't guess he knew I was a custom builder, but eventually he started seeing I could do that stuff, but we installed for years, did a lot of installs for Elliot. And then I guess after all of it crashed out about 2010. He finally got back into building again. And that's when I come back with him. And I installed for a while, but I was always doing a little custom stuff. But now I'm in the shop full time. Like he said, we got to get some new young guys in here that want to learn how to do this, because machines can't do everything. That's everybody thinks they can, but they can't. And they can't talk to the customer. So, but yeah, that's what I did. I started with commercial, went into installing, and then back to building again. And that's where we're at now. But we used to do so many smaller homes every week, and now it got to where it's just a big home. I don't know, one a month, two a month. But they're so big now, and we just got to get some young guys in here and get them trained up and learn a craft. Have something to fall back on. All these kids are going to school now to learn to do computer stuff. You know, they need to learn a trade. Trade's going to be where some money's at here in the future, you know. Everybody can't sit at a desk.
I already see it going that way.
Yeah, I know.
Harder to find people. Yeah, homeowners can't find anybody to work on their house, especially small projects. There's a huge opportunity in the trades.
The demand is there.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to get it.
So tell me about that that education goal, kind of where you see this going on the education side of things.
Well, I would like to go down to Montgomery and figure out a way to get some money to maybe get shop classes in the high schools, but make them awesome. I know there are some shop classes, but I think that would be the move, to like plant the seed in a teenager's mind, guy or girl, that using their hands is cool. It's something that they can do, even if their parents don't do it. Make them realize it's not as intimidating as it seems, and it is a valid job. It is a valid trade. So I would like to figure out a way to do that. I mean, I'm struggling to run our business right now, but I have big plans, you know, and we're growing, and a lot of the things that I do now, I'm hiring people to do, and that opens me up to do other things that I dream of. So maybe one day, you know, to answer your question, I haven't thought it through completely. But that was my idea, was to kind of go down and get some people in Montgomery behind it and try to get some money in the schools, and try to, you know, in each community, you could find a professional that maybe was interested in, you know, helping with the programs. I don't know. I think it would just be as creative as you could be with it, but I would like to see it in the schools, you know?
Yeah. Greg, do you have that same passion for teaching the next generation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And don't just get in there with cabinets. Get in there with interesting stuff. I mean, some of these kids skate, ride bikes. Show them how to build a radius ramp, you know? Get them interested in that stuff with something fun.
Yeah. Have you guys taught any classes yet out of your shop?
Every day we do.
Yeah, every day. You know?
Greg is a great teacher. And he and I probably have different ideas, you know, about how to. That's the thing about woodworking, is it's very finesse related, and like his finesse is different than mine. And I've never tried to make people do things my way unless their way just ain't working.
Mm-hmm.
And so Greg and I have very different ways. And so I always tell people when I teach something, ask Greg how he does this. Also, have him give you his spin on it, and then you put it together from that. Because it's not fun. Because I've been in that position. It's not fun when you've got somebody micromanaging you and making you do every little thing their way. You know, I think that's a good way to get people invested, because that's, you know, this is an art, and one of the main things about being an artist is being free. And now, of course, in cabinet making, you can only be so free, because it's got to be a box, it's got to be square, it's got to be plumb, it's got to be level. It's not abstract art. So there's certain constraints and parameters there, but I do like the idea of making people realize that this is a trade and it's an art, and you can have your own style, you can have your own approach. And I think that kind of thing makes people more interested than thinking that they're all right, supposed to be a robot, and how they work and how they do things.
Art versus craftsmanship. Do you differentiate them?
Ask me again.
Art versus craftsmanship. Are they the same to you, or do they differ?
every cabinet I build out there, everything I build, I try to build it the best like it was my own, so I look at it like it's a piece of art, but it's usually just a mantle, a nice mirror, something like that, a hood, curved hood with trim on it. But yeah, I look at all of it like it's art, but
I would say they're the same. I would say that it would differ depending on the person and depending on the project, but I think those two things have to coexist, at least in this world. I think if you're an abstract painter, maybe not quite the same mindset. I just keep mentioning that because that seems like the opposite to me. You've got an abstract painter, you got a cabinet maker, and we're calling them both artists, but they're on different, there's a lot in common there. But I would say that art, craftsmanship, those two things dovetail constantly.
How would you define craftsmanship? What is craftsmanship in your mind?
I'd say it's a standard. I would say it's a standard that the industry sets and you set for yourself.
Greg, any thoughts on that?
Well, craftsmanship to me, it's like that lumber that comes in. I look at that piece of wood. I know it's not going to make this cutout that I need. You need to be able to look at a piece of wood and know which way it's going to turn when you run it through the saw. Some of it splits, opens up. Some of it curves to the left when you relieve that tension in it. And that's the craft. You learn that after years of working with wood. It's a craft. There's math involved. There's a lot of math. There's a lot of fractions. They're trying to send us down the the metric system, but and that's kind of confusing when you're trying to measure stuff out. But yeah, it's a little bit to it. It's not just a tape measure sometimes.
How do you balance craftsmanship and keeping that top level? Because I know as a craftsman, you want to put all the energy and time into it, balancing that with making money and profits.
Well, you've got to charge the right amount. You got to see the job, and we've gotten big enough now where architects are clearly spelling out this job, and it takes a lot of the guesswork away. When we were at this section right here, but this is where we are now. When we were right here, it was still sort of vague and ambiguous, and a lot of times we were getting into things that we didn't know we were getting into, and they may cost us more money and time, and we make less money. But I think that's the way to deal with that is you've got to put the right amount of money in the job. In order for it to work out, you've got to be able to read the job when you're bidding it. I think that's the most important thing. I think if you're going to succeed and do super custom work, is you've got to plan for the custom.
This podcast is brought to you by the Workbench Society, our membership group where we get together on a weekly basis for conversations. There's bonus content. There's forums where we get together, support each other through growth, places where we can meet other creators, other makers, other craftspeople building their business, and we grow together. A rising tide lifts all ships. There's a link down in the description, and I hope to see you over there. Now, starting as the affordable company in town when you first launched, and then going up to the top tier, what strategies did you use to get there, and who did you have to become as a person to get the company to where it is?
Well, back then it was just a race to see how many kitchens we could get in, because these builders were doing tract homes, and it was, literally sometimes 4 or 5 kitchens in a week.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah, me and my brother installed a house a day. We do 4 and 5 houses a week.
So, and that was back when laminate tops were a thing. That would laminate tops, hardware, dapping, dusting, the whole deal. But still, we were meeting the customer's expectations. The builder had 5 houses, he wanted them installed, and that was it. The customer drives everything. And so I just think that's the ramp up. The customer is the end all be all. It's what they need. And you try to do it in the cleanest way possible. Clean work, but also clean in, the scheduling. Like that's one of the hardest things we struggle with is keeping up, because we've got a standard means it can only get out of the door so fast. And you can't control how much work you're going to get. I mean, we do all the things you're supposed to do to keep you from having too much work, and we still get too much work. And so, that is our biggest challenge right now. But at the end of the day, it still goes back to pleasing the customer every time.
Can I throw a comment in? If I could say anything that got us where we're at, Elliot goes above and beyond. The little things that cabinet guy shouldn't even be messing with, he's going to make sure it gets done. We're going to make the customer happy. And I probably shouldn't even say this. Our competition might catch on, but I wish the world would be like us and everybody do this. But that has actually got us where we're at today. Is that right there, going above and beyond on that little stuff. That's what done it. Because other companies, I've worked at other shops, they'll get most of a job done and you can't get them on the phone. You're on your own there at that last bit. That's with a lot of different companies. But if I can say anything, it's sad. It's making sure they're happy when we're done.
Yeah. Are you utilizing customer testimonials in your marketing and advertising?
Are we using what now?
Customer testimonials.
No, we don't really advertise locally because it's just word of mouth. It's the strongest thing. Miss Jones, we did her kitchen. Miss Miller lives across the street. She's been thinking about it. She got to see Miss Jones's kitchen. She's going to call us. But we do the social media stuff because we're trying to develop a brand. We're trying to not necessarily move away from the local sales. I've got somebody that will take this over, hopefully, and run it. And we'll still offer local kitchen and bath cabinets in Tuscaloosa. But Greg and I and Jenny, we're designing a furniture line. We've got a rough design of our first line. And that's why we're doing social media, is to sort of build exposure for us. And then when we go live with the furniture line, people will know who we are. They'll kind of have seen the process. It's part of what we're doing with our social media at times, is showing a behind the curtain look at what it's like to design furniture and to prototype it. So that's why we do social media. And we're also approaching the social media in such a way where we're kind of trying to make it look like a show, because we would like to have a show. We'd like to have a home show that breaks all the rules. No more, we've got a customer, now we're going to design it. You're going to see the designs. Now we're going to do demo day. Now we're going to do the grand reveal. The customer's going to cry. She's so happy. And that's a good model. I love Fixer Upper. It's great. But they set the trend, and now a lot of people do that. And so we want to totally do something different. And we want to actually show how the tiniest little detail can create, a lot of turmoil. And that's really interesting to me. And that's really life. So that's kind of our approach with the social media and while we're doing it.
Is that show going to be on YouTube, or is it going to be more of shorts on Instagram?
We're using social media as like a whiteboard, if you will, or a sketchbook. We're not really reaching out to. We want to have a network show is what we want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're using social media as just a way to learn how to be on camera, to learn how to write story and tell story, to learn who we are as people and characters. And we're not in any hurry to go to a network right now. We're just may look for an agent one day soon. We're just kind of trying to learn what it's like to be camera TV people, because we're not. We're just woodworkers, And so that's our approach with social media. We're not really interested in doing a demo on how to use a saw. Now, if we do a demo on how to use a saw, there's going to be some sort of aspect related to the human part. Like, for instance, our video about, if we were going to do a video about how to use a saw, it would be about people's fears of using a saw. Like we would just try to hit the human aspect every time. It's kind of our approach. And I think that may be more, that sort of approach may be more inclined to get people interested and want to try it on their own. That really is something I want to do also with the show if we sell it, is I want to get people using their hands, thinking I can do this, because they can. Woodworking is not hard. It's a bunch of simple stuff, but it's a bunch. That's the key word, is it's a lot of simple things, but it's a lot of things. It's nothing, it's nothing. They're all simple things, and anybody, if I can do it, I promise you anybody can do it. Experience and want. People want to do it. And most people want to be creative. Most people want to use their hands. They're afraid to. So I would like to make people think that they can.
Yeah. Well, with the growth of that, the furniture line, will you be building a manufacturing facility, or is it something you can operate out of your location, or is it something that gets outsourced?
We would outsource the manufacturing. We would prototype it here and then have it built. You know, I went to Italy and Portugal this summer, and I met with 2 different manufacturing companies and just kind of tried to learn what it's like. And I had a company in Italy prototype some stuff just to see what that was like. We're actually waiting on them to get here. They're coming in on a boat. So, yeah. So we don't plan on being the manufacturer. We plan on being the designer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you'll do manufacturing overseas, or have you considered doing it more locally in the States as things have become more challenging internationally?
I'd like to do it in the States if possible. I mean, I don't know if that's possible. I mean, we built our business really on cabinets that were imported, and like in the early days. And I don't want to support China, but man, I'm telling you, like they've got it down. Like they've got this kitchen cabinet thing down. The finish is awesome. I guess there's no regulations over there, and so they can spray a finish that may be really bad for the environment, but it's really great for the customer. And you know, we moved away from that. That was the thing. We didn't stay there, but that's where we started. But I can tell you all this to say that the products are really good overseas, and I wonder, I hope that America can make something, can manufacture for us at the same price point, same quality. But I understand now why people go overseas, and Italy is just full. I mean, that's a real sexy place to have your furniture built, I think, and they're full of manufacturing companies that, you know, that appear to do really beautiful stuff. So I don't think there's anything wrong with going overseas, but I'm rambling on about that because I just question how well it can be done in America. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the young kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, curious, you mentioned that that's how you built your business, was off of Chinese cabinets, but you do a lot of the stuff in-house. What parts are you getting shipped in versus building in-house?
Well, we build in-house now, but I was saying when we started, when we were trying to be the cheap guy.
I see.
That's when we had to focus on that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. We want to make it. You know, we do outsource our drawers. They're made in Louisiana. We outsource what we can. But everything that we outsource is made in America. We have a really great door supplier. They're in Canada. They're called St. George's. They're French Canadians, and they're awesome. Their work is incredible. But we try to do everything here. Okay.
So doors and drawers get ordered, but you're building all the other aspects of the cabinets, the boxes, the custom parts, all that stuff.
Yeah, and we make doors here too. We don't have enough folks to do everything.
Yeah.
And if you can find a company that can do it for you efficiently, it makes sense for where we are. But we're expanding. We've got a new shop that we're moving into hopefully next month. And that's part of the plan, is that we'll hopefully be able to make all our doors and, you know, put our hands on every little bit.
Shop moves are big. Moving all the equipment, or are you going to have 2 shops at that point?
We're going to expand the showroom. Our showroom and shop is here. So we're going to expand the showroom, and we're going to move all the equipment out to the new place.
Gotcha. That's exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Are you going to be making more music videos out there?
Ask me again.
Are you going to be making more music videos out there?
Yeah.
I ran across the forklift video earlier today. Yeah. I will definitely post that in the description of this podcast, because people just have to see that. That was great.
Thank you. Yeah, I was. Greg mentioned, you know, in the early days, I was out of town a lot. I was in a band. I guess I'm still in the band, but we're not active so much anymore. But I would like to make the music for all of our social media content. Like right now, we're using royalty-free stuff, and just because we have to, we need music quick. And but I would love to get to a point. Greg's son Cody actually has like the Apple Logic, and he's all set up, ready to go. All we need to do is go in there and start recording together. But I do hope to do that. I'd like to think of it like Disney. You know, back in the day, Disney would make their own music and their own soundtrack for their films. I would like to do that for our social media stuff, just because we can.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just go and use somebody else's music easily. You know, you've either got to pay for it or get in trouble for using it and not paying for it. So I would like to just use my own and music that my friends have made.
Does Greg make music too?
Yeah, I guess everybody in my family makes music. I would say I'm a drummer, but I play drums for my brother. I played drums just so I could hear my brother play guitar because he was so good. But yeah, I haven't played in a while, but my son plays a lot of instruments. Yeah, we play a little bit.
Nice. I look forward to hearing your own music on your stuff. You were mentioning earlier that struggling with running the business currently. What is the big struggle besides people?
Well, we're growing, you know, so in order to grow, you got to take a risk and you got to extend. So I've extended us big time, you know, and we've hired 3 new people this month, rather. Every time you do that, you're extending yourself and you're hoping that extension pays for itself. So in other words, every time you spend $1, whether it's on a person or a piece of property, equipment, you're doing it anticipating that it makes $1. So until it starts making $1, you're worrying about it, or I am. That's the main thing, you know, that I guess I worry about, but it's just part of doing it. Willing to fail if you're going to succeed, you know. So
with that growth, what have you had to change?
What's that?
What have you had to change with that growth in the way you operate?
You know, we're trying to do things where the whole group can be more efficient. Like, for instance, you know, the punch list. Right now, instead of the punch list going to me, and then I spread it out to the guys, and then try to explain this and that to them, we're trying to put the punch list in a way where it's on their phone, and they don't have to call me. They got it right there. We're just trying to use the technology that's around us to make us more efficient. You know, instead of me having to print drawings out for the Shirley kitchen, because I've already printed them out 3 times and now they're spread out all over the shop. We're trying to do it in such a way where everybody's got an iPad, and when they need the drawings, they can just go right there. So those are a lot of simple things that we're starting to do, just trying to keep us all on the same page, give us all the same information, and just make us more efficient, you know? So that's the advantage in having younger kids, is that they're really familiar with all this technology. Greg and I, but they can help us get there. And so that's a really great asset about having the younger kids around us. It's no big deal for them to install an app that does this, that, or the next thing, and then show us how to use it. Now we're rocking. So I think that's part of the key to us being able to grow and do more with less. It's just learning how to use all this technology that's available to us. You know, we got a CNC machine, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and that was a real stretch for us at first, but now it's like, it's just going. I mean, it's no problem. But at first it sucked, you know, because I was like spending tons of money on material that was getting ruined because it wasn't processing correctly, and we were having to run it 3 or 4 times. But now we got it. You know, it's just growing pains. You just got to keep feeling the pain until you start feeling the glory, I guess. I don't know.
All those processes and procedures you've built, were they just self-developed throughout the years of doing it, or did you ever have anybody come in, or was there because there's the idea of like lean manufacturing, and I know that there's some guys that teach that specifically in the cabinet industry, and I'm wondering if you've worked with them or utilized kind of their concepts at all, or if everything's self-developed in-house.
Well, this building has been a cabinet shop since the 70s, and it belonged to one of my mentors, me and Greg's mentor, one of them. And I worked for him when I was really young, and he's still around. Like, he's got an office here. He's retired. But he comes and goes every day. And like, when I got in business, the dollars and cents, he taught me all that. Like, he taught me, you know, you need at least 25% markup for builders, and for homeowners, maybe 35%. And so those were guidelines that he showed me. And like, he shows me guidelines all the time. And we have several people in our lives like that are, you know, in their 70s. They've been doing woodworking a long time, and they're our friends. They come around for the Christmas parties, and they come around on Fridays to see what we're doing. And yeah, so we got here because we are surrounded by people that want to mentor us, and they love woodworking, and they can't stay away. So that's kind of how we developed the system. I guess that in conjunction with what I was saying earlier, just going out on a limb and getting a CNC machine and seeing, can we make it work, thrashing around in the dark till you figure it out, basically.
With those mentors, what's the worst advice you ever got?
The worst advice?
Yeah, what's the worst advice that people should avoid?
I know you got some bad advice.
I don't know. I don't really know about bad advice. I tried to hang around smart people best I can. I don't know. I don't guess I really ever had to think on that one.
I can't. I'm sure I've had bad advice, but I don't remember it, I guess, for good reason, because it didn't do anything for me. I really don't know. I can only remember like great advice. And here's the most recent great advice that somebody gave me. He told me, if you're going to be in business and go big, you need to know all parts, not just the cabinet making part. You've got to know all the parts. And for me, the part that I don't know is the accounting. I know the finish room. I know the woodworking part, learning the CNC part, the accounting part, I know nothing about. And my bookkeeper, he's 70, and he's not going to be around for long. And like, I'm realizing now that advice that he told me, it's going to hit home really soon. Like what I do. So I would say that that's great advice. And like, my wife was a bookkeeper, so she always did my books. Well, she's got a full-time job. She's not able to do my books now. So that advice that guy gave me years ago, or whenever it was, like it's gonna hurt me that I don't know about bookkeeping. Like, somebody could literally come in here and keep books for me and steal from me, and I would have no idea. So I would say that that's great advice, that you got to know it all. If you're going to really run it, you've got to be able to coach all these people on what they're doing. I'm sure Nick Saban knows all parts of what goes on in that football team, in that area. There's nothing he doesn't know about. And so I need to learn about bookkeeping. I need to learn how that works. Sure, there's a lot of other things, but that's like a glaring thing in my mind. So I think that's pretty good advice. Know it all, not just the trade part. You got to know the business part. I don't know about the advice thing. I don't think I gave you a great answer on the bad advice or the good advice, but
actually, I think that good advice is good, because it's something that is often overlooked. We have our, as that one book put it, our entrepreneurial seizure, and started our business on a whim, without knowing the business side of things. At least that was my journey, and many others. What's the biggest mistake you've made? Maybe you wish you could go back and undo.
I can tell you for sure what that was. When 2008 happened, when I was telling you earlier, the collapse happened or started to happen. And Greg and I, we had like one great client, and he went under, stuck me. He owed me some money, and he went under. So it hurt me two ways. Like, I lost the money, and then I lost the future business, and I had nothing else. And so then when I went back in business, I was like, I'm not going to base my business on one guy or two guys. I'm going to try to get it all. Try to get everybody that I can to be my customer, And that's why we ended up getting as big as we have, because I started off with that mindset. I didn't want to let any job go. And now we've gotten specialized and we let a lot go. But in 2008, that was my mistake. If I had other customers, we would have had something to fall back on. And I was just trying to be comfortable. I was trying to be in business and tour with my band, keep Greg going, keep me going, and be comfortable. But that didn't work out. You really can't be comfortable. You gotta grow. I think that would be my advice. That would be my biggest mistake I've made.
How about you, Greg? Do you have any, is it the same, or do you have another thought on it?
I wish I'd have bought more silver.
I saw that video.
About to hit $100 an ounce.
Dang.
Tell them what you told me this morning.
What was it?
How you would have $70,000 if you.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started buying silver, it was $14 an ounce. I mean, it's $95 today, I think. So, I mean, that's 7-8 times what you invested. That's a But who would have knew, you know? But what was you wanting? Some good advice, you say?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been blessed to work. When I started woodworking, I was blessed to be around some older guys that knew all these tricks, and I just shut my mouth and listened to them, and I tried to absorb everything I could, you know. Try to pay everything in cash. I've tried not to borrow money.
If somebody's starting their business, just getting going, what advice would you give them, whether it be cabinetry or another trade?
I would just say compete as hard as you can. I would say, you know, hopefully your community, there's enough work for everybody to go around, but pretend like there's not.
Mm.
And, I mean, I just think you have to compete. Bobby, I don't know. Sorry
Hey,
about
Bobby's got something to say about it.
He must. But I mean, I just think that's my mindset. And we are in a community, like, it sounds like tough guy stuff. I'm not trying to say that, because we really are in a community where we're growing. I think in large part because we tend to win football games, and there's enough for everybody. But I do think, you know, if you really want to be great, you've just got to maybe compete against yourself is the right idea. You know, like set these standards for yourselves. Forget about the competition, compete with your standards and try to meet it every time. I would say that would probably be great advice. You know, don't try to finish the job. Like, try to finish the job with excellence, no matter what it is. Even if you're getting hired to sweep, what if there's another guy that's also sweeping the shop, and you know, you want to outsweep him because there's a chance to move up. And you don't want that to go to the other guy. You want that to be you getting that extra $1 an hour or whatever it is. You know, I think if people can just have that mindset, then they'll just go further.
Have you always had that mindset, or was it something that you've developed?
I think I've kind of always had it. My dad just, you know, taught me to work really hard. You know, don't halfway do it and try your best. You know, those are things that work to make you succeed in anything. What about you?
Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today, because you don't know what else is coming. You know, we get stuff all the time, just comes out of nowhere. We got to knock out, stop what we're doing, go over here and knock it out, you know. But do what you can today. Don't put it off till tomorrow. You don't know what tomorrow brings.
Well, if somebody wasn't lucky enough to grow up with that work ethic and mindset, how can somebody develop it?
Well, my mindset's do the best I can on everything I do, so that kind of keeps me at a standard. I just don't halfway do anything. I want to do it the best. I grew up, I'm a small guy. I had to compete with bigger guys working with them. I always tried to outdo everybody around me. You know, I tried to set an example. When I pull up in that parking lot and I'm walking to that door, I pick that piece of trash up. It's on the way to the door. Pick it up. You know, I try to set that example for folks. But, yeah, just do the best you can at everything like it's your own thing. You know, don't just Friday evening try to hurry up and get done so you can get off early, you know. Do the best you can. It's going to pay off later. That's what is work for us. Doing that extra bit, doing the best we can. And we're not running like rats like we did 20 years ago. You know, we got good customers now. We're in a good football city. It's just happening right now. We got to take advantage of it while it's there. Get the work you can, do the best you can. Be efficient about it. Don't be wasteful.
You know, I also think, Eric, I think part of what might bring that out in some people is like when they get married, they have a reason. Because I think sometimes people aren't motivated because they don't have anything to get excited about. But once you realize you've got a wife, a kid, then I think a lot of times that turns boys into men, you know.
Yeah.
I do think that brought a change in me, you know, because I was living a pretty self-centered life and just wanted to go to the bar and listen to rock and roll music. And then when I got married, I realized I needed a trade. I knew nothing about anything, and that inspired me to learn something. I didn't finish college, and even if I had, I was trying to get a degree in art. That wouldn't do much for you, you know. So, but it made me want to work.
You guys have had some great advice. I think there's a lot of useful stuff in here for the up and coming generations and those that are looking to build their business. What would you avoid? What would you advise somebody to avoid as they're growing their business?
I would advise people to avoid being prideful. Cause like, that's the thing. Like once you start to do stuff with your hands, you get the instant gratification thing. You're like, I did that. But that snowballs into a lot of bad stuff. It snowballs into you not wanting to take advice because you think you got it all figured out. That's especially prevalent in kids like 18 to 24 years old. Sometimes you can't tell them nothing. That was me. When I see it in young kids, I'll be like, I'm not mad at you. You're doing what's normal, but don't do it. I did it and I lost out on a lot because I was prideful. It's nothing wrong with somebody telling you you're doing something wrong. There's a better way. I'm like, you need to receive that with joy and separate yourself from the pride. And I think that applies to any trade, but I just think people that use their hands are especially prone to being prideful in a way that keeps them from learning, and especially in that age. So I would say specifically that message is for younger kids that are starting to learn. So because I can think of a lot of things that I missed out on because of my pride at that age, you know. So it's just human nature, but a lot of human nature ain't good.
How about you, Greg?
I like what he was saying. I'm big about humility. I get cocky sometimes when I'm being funny, but I try to be a humble guy about things. But like I was saying earlier, be still, be quiet, listen to these older guys, you know, steal their ideas and improve on their idea, you know. But you think you know everything, people ain't likely to show you something new, you know. They'll go to somebody else. So it pays to be humble about things. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I want to be respectful of your guys' time. I know it's a work day and you guys are in the middle of the shop.
Well, hey, let me ask you. I want to know about you for a second.
Oh, okay.
So what is interviewed now? What is your dream and plans with your podcast? Your life in general?
I want to build something that I needed when I first went off on my own, and that was community and the education that I didn't have. So the podcast is for people in the very beginning of their journeys. I mean, it's for everybody that's building the business, because there's so much around business that, you know, these ideas that can turn into something else that, you know, standard business advice won't get you, but stories might.
Right.
Ideas on, I mean, I just interviewed the #1 parchment expert in the U.S. I didn't know that parchment. I didn't know what parchment was. I thought it was paper.
Same.
It's leather.
Okay.
And but the history of it, it's 500-year-old business, and just the ideas, the stories, those things that you'd never think about come to light in these stories and these interviews. I actually just soft launched a affordable community monthly membership thing where people can hang out outside of social media, have the conversations. We're actually going to do our first live call, kind of social hangout today. So I'm excited about that, and learning what people need and trying to develop something to help more people in the trades get into business. And
you're a woodworker yourself?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Well, I started repairing windows when I was 14, working in a steel mill in Barrie, Vermont.
Oh, wow. You are a woodworker if you know about windows.
I do mostly windows and doors now, historic doors and windows, repairs and replacements and that sort of stuff.
And thank you for including us in this. I hope we did good for you.
Oh, you guys did great. I really appreciate it.
Clean us up if we look like Alabama hillbillies now, don't we?
Well, I hope to have another conversation with you guys in the future. Follow up on this sometime. Thank you so much for being on the show.
All right.
Hey, good to talk to you. Hope you have a great 26, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Chapel Cabinetry. If you're growing a business of your own, consider joining the Workbench Society. Link down below.